I'll call to order the December 4th, 2023 meeting of the Morris Township Planning Board. A legal notice required in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act has been satisfied, and a statement certifying same will be executed. Will you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sonia, can you take the roll?
Mr. Alesso.
Here.
Van Order.
Here.
Mr. Flowers.
Here.
Mr. Roberts.
Here.
Mr. Murphy.
Here.
Mr. Barrett.
Here.
Mr. Quillen.
Here.
Ms. Wilson.
Here.
Mr. Bai.
Here.
Mr. Warner.
Here.
Mr. Phillips.
Here.
Ms. Lake.
Here.
And Antonio Santiago here. Did I miss anybody?
Nobody did too. Nope. Okay, first order would be consideration for approval of the minutes for the October 2nd and October 16th. We'll address October 2nd first. October 16th, we're missing page 2, I believe, in the ones that were distributed.
It's just delivered.
But it was just delivered, so take a look at that. We'll deal with October 2nd first. Any comments, corrections, additions, modifications needed for October 2nd minutes? I'll entertain a motion to approve them.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes as drafted.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, minutes from October 2nd are approved. Would you like a second to look at the October 16th? Page 2.
I move that we approve the minutes for the 16th.
Is there a second?
As written.
I make a second. Joseph Alesso.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Minutes from October 16th are approved. Thank you. Thank you, Sonia, once again for getting those done.
May I ask a question,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman? So if we go back to the October 2nd minutes, it was a discussion about the horizon associated with work having to do with the master plan. And I just wanted to make sure, because we talked about creating some subcommittees and doing various and sundry work
Yes.
kind of along the way.
Right.
I just want to raise that as a point, because I'd like us not to lose that conversation
Yes.
and make sure that we come back to that at some point and take some executable action steps to move the ball forward. So that's all I wanted to say, is
Okay.
just to make sure that we remember that we said we were going to do that.
Yes. No, the plan is by our reorganization meeting in January, we will have a subcommittee
Okay,
named
awesome.
and ready and tasked with going forward.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, we have the resolution to memorialize Mr. Warner.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I actually have a suggested change. There's a spelling on the second line. It says for a fully confirming, that should be fully conforming minor site plan. You
Oh, yes.
have the same draft that I do, which I hope you do, the final draft. Yeah, that was it was a fully conforming, not a fully confirming minor site plan approval to replace roof-mounted solar panels. And as the board established during the hearing and confirmed, no pun intended, during the hearing, the applicant did comply with all the requirements of our ordinance. And we have the appropriate conditions, including the fencing, signage, and review and approval of the fire department. So hopefully it's an accurate memorialization of the board's decision. And we'll find out momentarily if it was.
Any comments on the resolution as written?
I had one, Mr. Chairman. The, on page 7, the resolution, the statement that says there, now therefore be it resolved. It says on this blank day of November 2023.
Oh, we didn't get it
That
filled
should
in
be
there.
Today, right?
Oh,
That will be today.
that would be traditional.
So the 4th day of December. Right?
That was it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think we might have had a meeting canceled, or for some reason
Yeah,
we couldn't
that's
get
also
you.
true of the deed delay. That's listed in November also, so we have to bring that up then.
Yes.
That's right, yeah, we have December 4 on the last page.
Okay.
Mr.
Any-
Chairman, may I make a motion that we approve this resolution as drafted with the two changes that were, I guess, added by Mr. Warner and Mr.
Quillen.
Quillen? Sorry.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, could you call the roll, Sonia?
Yes. Mr. Alesso,
Yes.
Ms. Van Order,
Yes.
Mr. Flowers,
Yes.
Mr. Rabbit,
Yes.
Ms. Murphy,
Yes.
Mr. Quillen,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Vine,
Yes.
so moved.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, we have no applications once again, but I think we needed to get these two things carried forward, so the meeting should go quickly. But yeah, we had that resolution, and then there's this other matter coming up. But in the meantime, any legislative committee reports?
Yes, Mr. Chairman,
Okay,
just want to give an update on the cannabis. We have completed our final cannabis meeting, and that was the public session, which was held on, was it November 30? The 1st.
November
1st. And with that, right now, Mayor Giorfi and I are in the process of drafting a report that right now I think is about 17 pages long. And I want to thank Mr. Barrett and Ms. Murphy for their input. And I know there was a couple of other folks on the Cannabis Committee that has provided us their feedback on this, and that, of course, that will be part of the report. And we hope to have the final draft of the board resolution before the end of the year. That's the objective, is to get it done before we recess. So hopefully, maybe even before the December 20 Township Committee meeting.
You're talking having the report?
Yes, the report to the Township Committee.
anything else on that? Okay, and moving on to this extension to file the subdivision deed. Mr. Warner, could you fill us in on?
Certainly. And we actually, I'd be remiss if I didn't say we have counsel for the applicant here. So maybe I should defer.
Okay.
I can fill. I'm on.
Yeah.
For the record, Frederick Zelli, Post Pollock, on behalf of the applicant. We have kind of an unusual situation, not so much of the request for an extension, but the circumstances that made us realize that was necessary. Apparently, my client went ahead and sold the property before the subdivision deed had been prepared or recorded. Unbeknownst to me, there is one advantage sometimes to using the same attorney for both land use and real estate. If you're going to do that, if you're going to use separate ones, at least fill each other in so we have an idea what's going on. But thanks in part to your assessor, we found out that this had happened. So we now have a situation where the property's been transferred. Luckily, I am in communication with the attorneys for the new buyers, as well as for the attorney for Ms. Anderson next door, who is the related party in this application. So it does not look like we'll have any logistical problems with getting it signed. It's just a matter of getting this extension, then submitting the deed for your approval and for the respective council's approval, and then we'll get it recorded and taken care of. But we do need procedurally this extension because the time, the 190 days, has in fact lapsed. Part of that is on my end. I did have some personal circumstances that certainly led to it in large part. So we're just requesting at this time just the extension of that time so that we can get everything done and getting it buttoned up.
And we've seen these before. As you know, the statute requires the subdivision deed to be recorded within 190 days. But there have been in the past extensions that we've granted. And here the applicant is, I guess, requesting until March 6th. So that would be approximately an additional 175 days to get it recorded. I don't know that there would be any a detriment to the extension. Frankly, there would probably be some significant problems if we didn't grant the extension, particularly since now that transactions have taken place, but it's still the discretion of the board. So, and we did draft a resolution should the board wish to grant the extension.
Yes.
So I have one question.
Sure.
There's the deed and then there's the construction that took place, right? And so the deed does not have the information that was approved by the planning board last March,
So-
right?
What happened was since neither my client's closing attorney nor the buyer's closing attorney was aware of this application, apparently, the title search went through and of course found the old deed from 2014. And the transaction went through carrying that description all the way through, which is what you would expect without the subdivision deed to trigger anything different. And the transaction happened back in May, so it actually wasn't that long after this approval. But we didn't, as I said, your assessor actually picked up on it initially.
I see that. That's good.
And
Yeah, good.
She has our gratitude for finding
Yeah,
that,
really.
absolutely.
But so the construction that was done in alignment with the measurements that were approved by the board in March.
Correct. As a matter of fact, if you recall from this application, it was largely constructed. The footprint certainly was already in place when you approved it, so nothing changed in that regard. That's
Okay.
correct. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
I'd like to make a motion, we approve their request.
With one change, the November up in the
Yes.
second page at the top, November 22, December 4th.
Yeah, again, at the bottom at the end there, it says December,
Yeah,
but we,
but at the top, it still says.
top system.
Where's that?
Second page.
The second page.
Right.
No, you got it. Second page.
Got it.
Ah,
That's
okay.
because that meeting was canceled, so. So it's your, can you restate the
Make a
motion?
motion with the resolution amended with the correct date.
Second.
Call the roll?
Mr. Alessa.
Yes.
Ms. Van Order.
Yes.
Mr. Flowers.
Yes.
Mr. Rabbit.
Yes.
Ms. Murphy.
Yes.
Mr. Barrett.
Yes.
Mr. Quillen.
Yes.
Ms. Wilson.
Yes.
Mr. Vine.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you all very much. Have a wonderful holiday.
You too.
You too.
I hope all's well with you now.
Okay, moving on to the last item on the agenda, which would be, or of business, would be the ordinance 2823 regarding off-street parking and loading for master plan consistency. Is Mr. Planner, yes, Mr. Phillips.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this ordinance amendment would modify the requirements in the zoning ordinance for parking stall size. Currently, the ordinance requires that parking spaces be a minimum of 9 feet wide and 20 feet deep, except that any retail, short-term commercial, or visitor parking must also have 10-foot wide stalls. That's what the ordinance requires now. The amendment would mandate that any residential parking be consistent with RSIS, which is Residential Site Improvement Standards, which you have to be in compliant with in any event. And that the current requirement under RSIS is indeed 9/18 for residential parking. And the amendment would also stipulate that for non-residential parking, the parking stall sizes would also be minimum of 9/18, but that hairpin, what's known or called hairpin or double striping be required, consistent with the accepted design standards for the hairpin or double stripe parking. And those standards are basically baked into the ordinance amendment. They're dimensioned. And those standards were run by engineering as well as Joe Fishinger, who's your traffic and parking consultant. They sanctioned and blessed that. So that is the genesis of the requirements for the hairpin striping. With regard to master plan consistency, this is an easy one. This change was actually affirmatively recommended as part of the 2017 master plan recommendation in the section on recommended changes to development regulations. And that recommendation was to go to 9 by 18 stalls sort of uniformly. There's no mention of the hairpin striping. But in any event, it's my opinion to this board that this ordinance amendment is consistent, not only not inconsistent with the master plan, but I think affirmatively consistent with the master plan.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Any comment? Yes, Ms. Wilson.
I would just add, it seems like it's more consistent, right?
However you want to phrase it, Kathy.
I remember
This
that
one's a
discussion.
no-brainer.
I'm really glad that
Yeah.
this is happening.
Yeah, and I know there was some issue with the size of the parking stalls, but I think part of the compromise here was the hairpin striping, which I think, as you know, helps, people better park in the space. And so that is being required for the non-residential.
I have one question
Mm-hmm.
on, so you see spots with the double
Mhm.
lines, right? Are most of them the 9 by 18 is like that? That's the
Yes.
standard size.
Yep.
And so the double lines on both sides fit nicely into the,
That's right.
okay.
It centers if you're focusing as a driver, it centers you to park like as best you can within that space. So that you're not sort of at an angle or encroaching on the single stripe. Jim, I don't know if you want to add anything, but that's basically what it does.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. There's been too many years of doing this.
I know George is the only one.
So I, so I've been an outlier on this for a long time, going back to 2017, where I tried to get the planning board to not make the statements that it made in the report at that time. I think the minimum 10 feet is important in certain situations, and when there's frequent coming and going, when there are people coming to a store and loading up grocery carts and things like that, that having the extra foot is very useful. I do think that that the double striping will help a lot, and I was one of the people who was pushing for that as a kind of compromise. It makes those 9-foot parking spaces seem wider, so I think it will be helpful. But I do wish that that the township were not abandoning the 10 feet wide requirement in certain situations. I also think that to say that residential parking stall dimensions shall be consistent with RSIS locks the township into RSIS, whatever that may be in the future. And you don't know what that's going to be in the future. So you're casting your fate with the better judgment, perhaps, or perhaps not, of somebody in Trenton.
I believe RSIS specifies minimums. And you can, with agreement, at least that's true for number of parking spaces. I can't remember if it says that for dimensions or not. But in general, they're minimums, not maximums. And you can be justified they can go over if they want. So
Having said everything, sorry, Joe, having said everything that I've said, I can't vote not to say this is not inconsistent with the master plan, because it is consistent with the master plan. So that's fun. That's what I
You started it, Steve.
Statute started.
right. Yeah, Mr. Alessi.
Question. I'm long Monday. My ears are still ringing from the Kiss concert. What?
Were they live or Avatar?
No, they were quite live. I saw the sweat. Yeah, they were quite live. The double. Could you explain what the double hairpin? I'm trying to visualize that in my head, and I'm
So you
Trying to
must,
understand
Joe,
it.
you must in your travels have utilized the hairpin. I'm
so it's
shocked.
a double. It's a double
It's-
on either side. And how are you measuring it? Because I
The
support George, so I'm trying to
The
find my
specs
compromise here.
are basically engineering specs, which are baked into the dimensions are in the ordinance amendment. So basically what it
16
does
inches
is
wide.
there's a hairpin or double stripe, right? And there's distances that are, again, set forth. And the hairpin stripe basically centers the vehicle within the 9 by 18 space. It's basically what it does. That's all it does. It's still basically dimensioned, a 9 by 18
It-
space.
Correct me if I'm wrong, it's 9 feet wide and what is it, 16 inches in from
Yeah.
each side? You have
Correct.
that second line to help.
8 inches.
Eight on-
16 inch
yeah.
total
Oh,
width,
so
so 8 inches.
each.
Yeah.
4
Measured
inch,
from the
4 inch
middle.
wide stripes.
Yeah.
So does that give the actual parking space only 7 foot?
No, it's
8
still,
No,
it's still,
no.
it's still 9
No,
feet,
it's
but
9
it helps
feet.
you stay within the 9 feet.
Yeah.
He's saying
Better,
between the
center
two lines, though, if
within
you were
the
to
line.
measure the inside.
It actually
with the
works, Joe,
inside
believe
line,
it or
that
not.
Helps
is
people park.
It actually works.
Visit,
That's how
visit,
you get centered in
visit the,
space.
the marketplace.
Yeah.
The new marketplace, you'll see
Yeah.
it.
I'm there every other day for the fire.
You
ring.
didn't even
and then
notice
when
it.
people are so crooked on that,
Didn't even know it was double hairpin striping.
Well, I got a big truck when I go there, so.
Oh, there you
Well,
pay
that's
attention.
right.
oh, he's parked so far over the line, he only sees one.
So that was you, huh?
That's it.
There's always that one really nice sports car that parks like this sideways.
Yes.
I don't know what that
Yeah.
makes up 3 spaces.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
What's that?
I had a comment.
Yes.
I would also just like to comment that I'm very much in favor of this, and I find it's been very confusing and time consuming to hear developers have to struggle through this, and for us to be different than other areas where they work, other municipalities. So I think it's the right thing to do, and I think the RSIS has got very prudent standards. I'm glad we did it. I'm also glad that it's going to be more an administrative thing that's, the engineering department does, and will release us with, to have more time to talk about the master plan and other things that are priorities for us.
I'd like
Here, here.
to echo what Tanya just said. We've done way too many applications where we had to deal with variances for what are actually industry standard parking stall sizes.
Well stated.
Yeah, I think I've stated before that when we require parking minimums, the number of spaces, and then the minimum size. And if you make that 10 feet, that's a whole lot more parking area. That's impervious coverage and less area that can be developed with something that actually pays something and pays, parking space is a pretty expensive piece of real estate. So to dictate a minimum number and make them larger than seems to be necessary is you'll conceive. I think we're much better off with the 9 by 18. So thank you for all those involved.
Yes. One question, like, as a hypothetical, like what George was referencing, supposing hypothetically there is some place that for whatever reason you would like it to be bigger. How would that work? I mean, from the applicant's point of view, this is the standard. But if the board felt for some reason that you wanted it bigger, is that like out of the question?
I can only share with you, the ordinance is the ordinance and it says the minimum, but I'll share with you that I've been involved in applications representing other boards where for a particular kind of use, I think mentioned like a big box store or supermarket, there's sometimes an ask to do some portion of the spaces to maybe be 10 feet wide, for example, because of the whole issue with packages. It's more the width actually than the
Yeah,
depth
it is.
of the stall. And I've seen applicants, developers agree to do that. But, I think you
condition.
play that as it goes between the board and the developer. But having a 10-foot requirement is just, to me, for the reasons stated about impervious and what the current standard is, that doesn't make sense. But again, there's flexibility and you could always ask. And sometimes you're surprised what applicants respond that they're willing to do it because they kind of agree with the consensus. Well, maybe for this use, we can do some spaces that are a little bit larger to deal with packages and things. So,
No better
Keep it
context
in
for
mind.
stipulation than when they're before the
Yeah,
board. on
of course.
this.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
Take it away, Joe.
I can't.
He can. Yeah. Anyone else? I will, support a motion to approve this.
I'll second.
No.
Oh, I'll make the motion,
Okay,
sorry.
thank you. You need
And then
that,
somebody else will
Murphy.
second.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Okay. Would you call the roll, son?
Can I abstain?
That's not
Well,
too-
I'm not a fan, frankly, of abstentions. You certainly can, but frankly, if you're here and you're qualified to vote, generally, the decision should be made one way or the other. You can be in favor or against.
No.
Van Order,
Yes.
Mr. Flowers,
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Ms. Murphy,
Yes.
Mr. Barrett,
Yes.
Mr. Quillen,
Yes. Reluctantly.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Bynum.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you. I don't believe we have any public comments. So, and I don't think we have any need for a closed session. But before Joe gets on us with a quick motion here, I would like to thank everyone. It's been a fairly light year, which I think we can, be thankful for. But even so, I would like to thank everyone here, all the board members and the board professionals for the time and effort that they put in here, because even if it's been a light year, there's still a commitment on everyone's behalf, so thank you. I'd also like to thank members of the public, although there are none here now, but some may be listening, and those who have attended and may have followed along on Zoom for showing some interest in what's going on here. I think it's important that, even though we have gone in-person meeting, I think it's important that the Zoom be there so people can at least follow on and see what's going on. So thank you, everyone. I say both board members and board professionals. We really appreciate all your efforts throughout the year too. Sonia, I'll give you a special thumbs up for especially, some of the changes and the things that we've done, that's asking you to do the minutes, which you have done a wonderful job. So we really appreciate that. And want to wish everyone a happy holiday season. And we'll be back on January 8th for our meeting. And we'll see everyone then. So thank you again. Thank you very much.
Might see you guys from.
So let's wish
Thank you.
Ms.
Yeah, my
Wilson
last-
wonderful.
Yeah,
This is her last meeting.
I'm sorry, Kathy, right.
This is her last meeting.
We need to thank you for your contributions on here. Yeah, especially.
We'll see you on the other side of the, podium.
Yeah, right.
See you on the podium.
I don't know.
Right, depends on what we're talking about. Okay. We'll keep an eye out
It's been a
for you.
pleasure.
Yeah.
And I'll look forward to your master plan discussion.
So, okay.
Would it be appropriate to make a motion that we adjourn?
Yeah.
Is-
Oh, no.
Is there a
It would
second?
only be appropriate if you made it.
That's right. It wouldn't be right if you didn't make it, right?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Happy holidays.
Yes, happy
everybody.
holidays.
You too, everyone. Thank you.